finally, a book tag for which I have a lot to say, probably more than any other booktuber out there. This is My Literary White Whales. I think the first booktube channel that I think is the original creator of this book tag is Guilty Feet, which I also don't think it was originally intended to be a book tag, but a number of people appropriated it afterwards, and I'm not gonna be less. I discovered the channel of Guilty Feet through Michael K. Vaughan, who was the first person I saw doing this video, and I could sense the guilt in Michael K. Vaughan's video, especially as he approached Shakespeare, which is one of the many books that I have yet not read fully. Then I watched immediately after that. I followed the link thread, and watched Guilty Feet. It was an amazing discovery of a very nice channel. And then I went to Randy Ray and Steve Donaghy. Surprisingly, Steve Donaghy also had something to say on this subject. I did not expect that he would have anything in the world yet to be read. I thought things just like as they were printed, that he would be there just reading them word by word just before they even were assembled into a book. So that was also surprising, but I am on the other side of this book tag. Not only have I not read a lot, but I have come to reading late, not in the sense of how some people says late when they mean 15 or 17, but actually late. Before the age of 20, I hadn't read any non-poetry books except for like a handful, less than 10. So I had read a lot of poetry, but nothing else up until I was 21. And even then I didn't really read consistently for like more than 50 books a year until I was like 23, and now I'm 25, so that's not a lot of books if you make the numbers. So yeah, these are not all the books I have to read. These are the ones I have here. I am massively aware of all the books I have to read, because even though I haven't read as much as someone would say should have, I don't think I should have read any books, but as much as I ought to, I know exactly what those books are, because long before I fell into reading, I fell into fetishizing literature and like learning the names of the books I have to read and like 4 facts about them. So yeah, that's a lot of books that I know that I have here without really having them. So yeah, I don't regret this though, because I think one of the reasons why I came back late into literature is because I came very early into life, and I'm not saying that has to be the case for everyone, but it was for me. So yeah, let's get started. The Name of the Rose. I'm not gonna lose too much time talking about each of these books. There is 1,000 videos on each of them. The reason why I have to read The Name of the Rose, what is one of these sort of like literary white whales that makes me feel like Ahab, sort of like pursuing it, and every time looking at it in myself with distress and not having time to read it, is that I watched the movie when I was young. I love the movie. I think it's a very good movie. I read Umberto Eco's book on beauty 2 years ago, I think. It's also, Umberto Eco's nonfiction is something I really like, and my mother sort of like completely mystified this book. So it's always been there, you know? So that's number 1. Let's go to number 2. I didn't know about Edith Wharton like a few months ago, but then Steve Donaghy said twice on a video that one of her books is he said technically flawless or perfect or something like that. and I was curious about that, so I'm just gonna read this. Also, one Spanish booktuber I like loves Ethan Frome. So yeah, there is 2 reasons to read this Wharton. Not to mention that all of these books are classics, and I do, as most new bookworms, people that are new into the world of reading, because being just 3 years into the world of reading for me is still being new. I do still therefore have a tendency for wanting to read the classics first, although I often procrastinate. I have I haven't gone into literature straight. I read first philosophy. That's why you won't find any philosophy books among this shelf. The first thing I started reading is philosophy, and then I got bored of philosophy, and I found many reasons to not want to continue reading philosophy, although I am a strong supporter of that kind of writing. And yeah, I found myself with tons and tons of books to read that are supposed to be incredibly important, and that I just need to confirm that through reading them and understanding what role they play. This is a book I didn't know it existed before BookTube, and it's also the first book I heard my personal favorite booktuber in English language, Steve Donaghy, recommend in his channel. And it's no more, no less than Middlemarch. Yeah, I'm not gonna make any comments about this. I'm just gonna continue my long confession. And this is a book that I will read this summer. I heard about this book the first time by a comic writer I like. It's called Lo Logio. He has a Spanish book, a Spanish YouTube channel. He's mainly a graphic novel artist. And this is his favorite book. And this was maybe when I was like 16. So it's been a long time of postponing the book. The Magic Mountain by Thomas Mann. Allegedly the best or one of the best novels of the 20th century. This is another recommendation of Steve Donaghy. Is for some reason one of the books that I am more like, I feel like I want to read the most, although it seems not to be as relevant as the others. It's definitely not mentioned so often. It seems quite an obscure topic. I don't even know well either of the people involved in this book, and yet for some reason it just calls me. I feel very attracted to thick, big books that are just completely alien to me, and this is one of them. It is The Life of Samuel Johnson by James Boswell, a biographical work by an author I don't know, about another author I don't know. But for some reason this book, which I could have a whole reading life and never feel the need to read, I do feel like I need to read it, and it's partly due to the persuasive abilities of Steve Donaghy, but also just because, I don't know, it just appeals to me. I've seen it a few times, and yeah, I just really want to read this book. Who knows when though? This is already some people's a year of reading. I hope it won't be the case for me. I'm hoping I will read all of these books before the end of this year, but I am sure that some of these will have to be left behind, and this might be one of them, because this book is actually like, this is Wuthering Heights by Emily Bronte. And the reason why this is one of the most the books that someone else would feel more ashamed of confessing that hasn't read it, it's because the reason why I haven't read it yet is because I wanted to read first all the more conventional books that have been written by the Brontes. I haven't read Jane Eyre. I have read Pride and Prejudice, but I haven't read Pride and Prejudice because It was when I was just starting to learn English, and I hated it, and I wanna be, I wanna know, I wanna learn, I wanna be proved wrong. I wanna learn that it was off my ways or whatever. Yeah, basically, I need to reread Pride and Prejudice, and I need to read Jane Eyre, at least those two before I read I will read Wuthering Heights, precisely because it seems to be a more subversive version, and I think I would enjoy it more if first I read the other two. And also, it's many of my bibliographical guides have this as their favorite book. By many, I mean like 3. So yeah, that's another reason to want to read this book. This is this is probably gonna be the first book of my literary white whales that I will read, because if I'm on a sci-fi phase, and I just gotta read Foundation. I just gotta read Isaac Asimov, especially after having heard about him so much for so many people. I'm not so excited about this book. It might be the last book I read from this list, mainly because it's Walden, and I'm sure it's a beautifully written book. I read On Civil Disobedience by Thoreau, and I've read passages from this book, some beautiful passages from this book. But the whole idea of like a house in a lake that so many people uses to refer to as like going to wilderness, right? Like, I have been in nature, and I just don't think that a house next to a lake is the kind of retreat that would make it for me. Like, I don't know how to explain this, but like, I've heard people speak about this book as sort of like, this guy went into the woods, completely isolated, in contact with nobody, and survived there for a few days, for a period of time. I don't know how long, because I haven't read it. And then came back and wrote about it, right? And it's like, I have done that. I have done that without being on a cozy house on a lake. This sounds more like he was just on a village that didn't have many people. Like, it doesn't sound like what some people tries to sell me, that somehow like some into the wild kind of thing. And if he tries to sell that, and then the actual story is that he built a house next to a lake among other houses, then it's just about his life on a village, and it can still be a very good book. But I just hope it's not as dishonest as some references to this book have been on my own personal experience. Now, this is another book that I will read very soon, and it's The Confessions by St. Augustine. Yeah, I mean, this is I'm having a medieval philosophy course next year. I think as I read medieval philosophy, I'll also be reading The Confessions and Erasmus and as many medieval thinkers as I can. Now, this is not a book I'm so excited to read. It's Les Miserables, but so many people loves it. It's in so many people's list that I just have to read it. I think I will postpone it because it's massive, as most of these books are. It's massive. This is, yeah, more than 1,200 pages long. And I've heard that many of those pages could be removed from the book. I've heard that many times. So yeah, I'm not super excited to read this book, but I will read it. It's a literary white whale for sure. Now, this is a book I'm very excited to read, and just because I have so many literary white whales, I've decided to wait until Halloween to read it. And I've gotten like one of the most beautiful covers that you could get for this book, so that I have to force myself to read it. I did read a children's adaptation when I was a kid, and I've watched every an abridged version for children, and I also watched all the cinematic adaptations, but I haven't read the actual book, Dracula, by Bram Stoker. So yeah, that's it. This is a beautiful, beautiful cover that I will be reviewing at some point. Look at that. Look at that. Can this be more beautiful? Ha. The next one might be the next book on my personal book club, in-person book club that I sort of try to keep afloat, and it's The Tale of Genji. Another book that I just have to read, allegedly the first novel ever written. I don't know if that is true, I haven't confirmed it, but definitely many people's favorite book. Steve Donoghy is one of his favorite books. Also Marta from No Solo Clásicos in a BookTube channel in Spanish, favorite book as well. It's another very thick book, another read that would take me a couple of weeks to get through, maybe a month, but another must read, and that's it. Now we get to my second most regretful literary white whale. I have read Shakespeare, I have read Romeo and Juliet and Macbeth, and Much Ado About Nothing, and something else, but I haven't read King Lear. I don't think I can say I have read Hamlet, because I kind of like, I just read some Hamlet for an exam in high school, and I haven't read most of Shakespeare, and I haven't read Shakespeare cover to cover, but I have watched many of Shakespeare's adaptations, and I have learned some of Shakespeare's lines by heart. Yet I've been a Shakespeare hater for most of my life, and I don't know why. I think it's just because I was a boy, and this is like a romantic kind of book. So I think I was just too immature to admit that this is a great writer that I need to read, and there we are. This pile is starting to be unstable by the unbearable weight of guilt. There is one last book, and this one I feel especially guilty about because it's my father's favorite book, along with another one, and it's a book that's always been on my life. The movies are, in my opinion, some of the best movies that have ever been made. Not my favorite movies, but just some of the best movies that have ever been made. In terms of soundtrack, edition, composition, direction, actors, cast, everything. It's just a triad of perfect filmography. You might already guess which book it is. The only reason why I haven't read The Lord of the Rings by Tolkien is because I watched the movie so many times that I always thought, I'm just gonna know everything. I know that's a stupid argument, and that's why it's on this list. And with this, I finalize my literary white whales. If there is a lost soul that falls into this video, tell me about yours.